What's shaking, friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shay, and today I have my full October wrap up for you guys. So this may be a little late out on the channel because I have recently had to celebrate both of my kids' birthdays and Halloween, and everything has just been so hectic, but I have been managing to read. So the first thing I'd like to go over is some statistics. In the month of October, I was able to read 16 books for a total of 5,949 pages, and my average rating was a 3.4. So quickly, I did do a mid-month wrap-up, so I'm going to go over those books that I went over in the wrap-up just by saying what I read and what I rated it. So the first book I read was The Ivies by Alexa Dunn, which I gave 4 stars. The second book that I read was Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams, which I gave 2 stars. The third book I read was What Comes After by Joanne Tompkins, which I gave 3 stars. The next book I read was Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan McGuire, which I gave 3 stars. The next book was Magic Triumphs by Alona Andrews, which I gave 3 stars. The next book was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls, which I gave 4 stars. The next book was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Sweeney, which I gave 4 stars. So those are the books that I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up, and now we are going to continue on with the rest of the books that I read for the month of October. So, of course, I was going to continue on with the David trilogy. So I read Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, and let me tell you guys, this did not disappoint. This was a 5-star read through and through. S.A. Chakraborty continues to write a magnificent masterpiece. I will read anything she writes from here on out. Her character work is fantastic, flawless. I cried. I normally don't cry when I read books, but I did have tears when I read this one. So quickly, just not to give any spoilers, the first one is The City of Brass, and it follows our main character, Nari, who has always had this kind of healing ability. But she doesn't really believe in magic. She doesn't know where it comes from. She doesn't believe in magic. She thinks she's just conning people. So one day she's conning people and she accidentally summons this Jinn warrior named Dara, and he basically takes her and whisks her away because they are running from some evil creatures to the city of Davabad, and she learns who she is, who she really is, and it goes from there. And there's a lot of politics and there's some love in there, and it's absolutely fantastic. This book actually had a time jump in it, which I'm not real crazy about usually in books, but I love it, and I hope to get to Empire of Gold really soon. So gave this one 5 stars. The next book I read was, again, I'm trash because this book is ripped and it's got a sticker on it, but I read Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. This book is was very polarizing to me. I did not expect this. I'm normally not triggered by books, but I was certainly triggered by this one. So our main character, Mina, so this follows her, and she goes to this academy, and it's really like this beauty academy where these girls are perfect. They don't have scars. They basically don't take like regular classes. They take beauty classes and how to entertain men. And basically they go on a field trip, and Mina meets this boy from the outside world who they're not really supposed to be talking to, and she quickly learns that things maybe not what they seem at the academy. And so this was very uncomfortable to read because you have these older men that are trying to get with these younger girls, and just some of the dialogue and some of the physical actions that these younger men take on with these girls was just very disturbing to me. It did kind of creep me out. But overall, I really did enjoy the story. It wasn't like some kind of magnificent thing. I knew what the twist was before it occurred. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I do plan on continuing with the series. So I gave this one 4 stars. The next book I read was another series, and I finished this one off, and this was Obsidio by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is the 3rd book in the Illuminae Files trilogy. I can't say much about it, but I will tell you I also gave this one 5 stars, which means I gave every book in this series 5 stars. I truly enjoyed this one. The first one, Illuminae Files, basically follows this group of people, they have been attacked. Their city has been in space, has been destroyed, and they get away on these ships. They escape, and there's a warrior ship that is after them. And there are some things on the ship. There's an AI that kind of goes rogue on them and tries to kill them. There's also a virus that gets loose and tries to kill them, and all kind of stuff happening, and they are trying to get to freedom. And this is just the third installment of that series, and it was fantastic. These books are told in mixed media format, and I really feel like it's very action packed. You're never bored. I really enjoyed the audiobooks. I read all 3 of them. Well, I read physically and listened to them on audiobook, and I really truly enjoyed this and highly recommend it. Highly. The next book I read was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I read this one because I had to read a nonfiction book for my book club. I normally don't read nonfiction, but I read The Glass Castle earlier this month and enjoyed it, and so I decided to pick up Know My Name. And if you aren't familiar with the case, the Brock Turner case, this follows the girl that was sexually assaulted by Brock Turner. He was an excellent student at Stanford. He was world-renowned swimmer, was going to go to the Olympics, all that kind of stuff. He had his whole life ahead of him, and then he sexually assaults this girl, and he gets caught while doing it. And I remember when this case was on the news, because of course it was very publicized, and a lot of emotions were going into it, because everybody didn't want to believe the worst about this all-American boy. And then you had the girl, and a lot of people were blaming the girl and saying she wasn't telling the truth, all kind of things. I remember it. And I saw what was just on the media and what the media portrayed, and just to hear her story and listen to her story was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and of course lots of dialogue on rape and how women are perceived. And if you don't remember this case, the judge ended up giving Brock Turner only 6 months of jail time, which he only served 3 months for good behavior, of course. That just speaks volumes. And I really enjoyed it, and highly, highly, highly recommend this one. I did give it 4 stars, but I overall enjoyed it. She actually reads the audiobook, and I also listened to that on audio. The next book I read, which was not on my TBR, but I ended up picking it up because I had to read a book that was somewhat in second person perspective, and that was when I picked up the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. So I have been meaning to read this. It's been on my TBR forever. I can't even describe this book to you, so I'm going to read the back of it. It says, "This is the way the world ends for the last time. It starts with the great red rift across the heart of the world's sole continent, spewing ash that blots out the sun. It starts with death, with a murdered son and a missing daughter. It starts with betrayal and long dormant wounds rising up to fester. This is the stillness, a land familiar with catastrophe, where the power of the earth is wielded as a weapon and where there is no mercy." I don't even know how to describe this book. It follows 3 perspectives. I ended up giving it 3 stars. There was nothing wrong with it, but in a book where you're following multiple POVs, sometimes my rating is hindered because I don't like one of the POVs, and this is what happened in this one. So in one of the POVs, we are following a mother who is looking for her missing daughter, and she is traveling to try to find her, and her husband has basically not only murdered her son, but has taken her daughter because he realizes finally that she has some magic abilities. And so the traveling part I didn't care for, but I overall gave it 3 stars. I do plan on continuing on, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the series goes next. By all means, I'm not saying I'm not going to read on. I did enjoy my time with it. It's just that one POV just completely took me out of the story every time she came up, because a lot of times in traveling stories I just find it kind of boring, and that's what happened with this one. But I thought it was, again, a little bit longer than it needed to be, but overall I did like the other 2 perspectives, so I'll continue on in this series. The next book I read was Night Books by J.A. White. This follows the story of a boy who basically gets captured by this witch, and he is a writer. He writes scary stories. He loves scary stories, and she demands him to read her a different scary story every night in order to survive. And so he has, there of course there's different things. He has writer's block. He has to think about what he's going to write. He doesn't know how to write, all the while, meanwhile, trying to figure out how he's going to escape. And there's a girl in there also that is trapped, and they become friends and they're trying to get out. This has a kind of a twist to it too. This is middle grade. I enjoyed it. I normally don't go for middle grade, but I really did enjoy this one, and I gave it 4 stars. And I do plan on watching the Netflix adaptation sometime soon. The next book I read was El Deafo by Cece Bell. It's a graphic novel, a middle grade graphic novel, because I had to read one for disability rep in my book club. So I chose this one. It is about a deaf girl and how deaf people perceive things, and it really was eye-opening, because even though, you know, we like to pretend that we know how certain disabilities work, like I always thought, you know, I knew how deaf people worked and lip reading and all that kind of stuff, but I really don't, and it was very eye-opening. I gave it 4 stars. Definitely, regardless of who you are, recommend you reading that book. The next book I read was an ARC by Helena Hunting called When Sparks Fly. I had it out on NetGalley and needed to read it, and so I haven't read a romance in quite a while. I usually read romances that are kind of hard-hitting, that have deeper topics. This one did not. It follows our 2 main characters who are friends. They have been friends since college. They have lived together as friends for 2 years, and she basically, he's kind of a man whore, and they plan to go on an alumni trip together, and she is terrified to go because her tires are bald and she knows she needs a tire change. So he's going to drive her in his SUV, and the night before he goes off and gets drunk, and he brings a girl home, and he's in no shape or form to drive her to this alumni event. And so he also left his car downtown, so he can't let her borrow his vehicle. So she travels off on her own with her bad car, and she ends up getting in an accident, and he feels like it's all his fault, and it is their friends to lover romance. I thought it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. There are some things that happen in just specific romance books that I don't like, and this one had a little bit too much drama, cringy dialogue. Just did not overall believe in their romance, because in a friends to lovers story, I like to have more of that friends. I feel like they got together very quickly. It was like 3 or 4 chapters of here's our backstory, and then now we're getting together, and I don't like that. At friends to lovers, I like to get more of the friends before I get the lovers. So then I read, because I was kind of in the mood for romance after that, and I'm watching the World Series right now, I read The Perfect Catch by Megan Quinn. So this is part of her baseball romance series. I have read a lot of Megan Quinn books. I typically love her. I think she's a great rom-com writer. She's an indie writer. And I gave this one 4 stars. It is a forbidden workplace romance. He is the baseball player, and she has been hired as the team's events coordinator, and he's this grumpy, like does not have the best reputation, so he gets assigned to her to kind of make him participate in some charity events, that kind of thing. Is their romance. I thought it was very cute. I thought it was believable. I truly liked these characters. I gave it 4 stars. Overall, an enjoyable read. So that's it. That's all the books that I read in the month of October, which I feel like I had a pretty good reading month considering everything that had all the events that were occurring in my life. I thought I did pretty well. I went on vacation in the month of October for a whole weekend and did not read, and then I had my kids' birthdays, and then there was Halloween, which was all kind of hectic when you have kids. If you have kids, you know. So I'm super excited that I read that much in October, and I am looking forward to continuing the momentum in November. I will catch you guys later.